Hey, and welcome for joining me at yet another GoRouter video. And in this video, I will be going over nested navigation. If you want to follow along or if you want to examine the examples that I use in this video, please check out the link here on the slide. And there you will see all the examples that I will be showing in this video. So let's dive right in. So for this video, I've created the following example app, and it shows a TV and a TV remote. And the idea is that if you press a channel on the TV remote, the TV channels should change. And we're going to do that by going over these 5 different ways of configuring navigation. So we're going to handle all of them, see the differences, and how to use them. So let's take a look. So here in the main, you'll see the 5 different configurations that we're going to use. So to be perfectly clear, we're going to use the same app, but all that we're going to change is how the routes are configured. So we'll be replacing them and see what changes when we apply different ways of navigation. So let's start by taking a look at the normal routes. With the normal routes, I've configured 3 separate routes. Each route will create its own TV page, set the current channel, and add a TV show as a child. And the TV show has a different color for each channel. So that's it. So how does that look like in the app? So we're gonna refresh the app, go to the simulator. So as you can see, if a TV channel is started, it will start a counter. This will be important later on in the video. And we can use the remote to switch channels. But let's see what happens. So what you notice is that the whole page is shifting. And that's because we've defined them as 3 separate routes. So GoRouter will be replacing one route with another. And for our use case, that feels kind of odd because the only thing that should change is what happens inside the TV, and that's the TV show. So let's take a look at how we can fix that. So if you watched my previous video, we've learned about path parameters and query parameters. So in our case, we can actually also use that. So what we do, we create a single route. Well, we also need a redirect. But we basically create a single route with a placeholder in the path, which is the channel. Then we can use this channel data and parse it into an integer, which we can then use as the current TV channel. Based on the same value, we can set the color. So the main difference is that everything is replaced by a single route, and that will have the following effect. So we're gonna go to main. We're gonna use this. Gonna reload the app. And again, it looks the same, but now if we switch, you will see that only our TV channel has been replaced. And this is already very nice. And for some use cases, this is enough, maybe even the best way. But sometimes what happens inside your navigation can be more complex, and therefore we have different approaches. So let's take a look at those. So the next thing that I want to show you is shell route. we're going to add it in. Replace it. So let's take a look how that looks like. As you can see, a few things changed. So we added a new type of route, which is called a shell route. And as you can see, a shell route itself does not have a path. That's because a shell route is used by GoRouter to be wrapping its child routes. So as you can see, this shell route has again the channel 1, 2, and 3 subroutes. And if we navigate to one of these, then GoRouter knows that it has to apply the shell route around it. And for the shell route, we still have to define a builder because we have to tell it which widget it has to build to wrap around our subroutes. So in this case, it's the TV page. And what we get from the builder is a child. And the child contains the route that we navigated to, so the subroute. But what it also does, it adds in another navigator, and that's the important part. It gives us a separate navigator that we can play with, and that's the main difference between this and the previous example. So with that navigator, we can choose on which page we want to pop and on which navigator we want to push a new page. So it gives us way more control. We're not currently doing that, but we'll see what happens when we run this project. We're going to restart the application. Let's take a look at the simulator. So now if we're going to switch, you notice that there is like an animation going on. And it looks familiar because it's also what happened in our very first example, because it's like the default page transition. So that's also one way to tell that it actually added a navigator. So what GoRouter is doing, it adds a navigator inside the TV, and it will push or replace the route that we're going to. So if we go to channel 1, it will replace this route, the current route, with the new route, and that causes the page transition to happen. Now, in this case, and in most cases where you have nested navigation, the default page transition is not very nice. You can, however, override this all and create your own transitions, but it's also very common to disable the transitions. And that's what I want to show you in the next example. So if we go to the main again, and we're going to use the next one. And let's take a look how that is configured. So as you can see, what we've changed is instead of using the builder, we're now using the page builder. And where the normal builder just requires us to pass in a widget, the page builder requires us to pass in a page. And a page can contain like the transitions and stuff. But conveniently, GoRouter comes also with a no transitions page built in. So we only have to wrap our TV show with the no transition page, and this will solve everything for us. So if we now restart, we'll see that there is no transition, but the TV channels are properly replaced. So that's very nice. So if we take another look at our application, you will see that every time we switch between channels, they will start counting from the beginning. This is because every time GoRouter replaces the route, it will be recreated. And that's because a normal shell route has only one navigator. So it will replace the current page with a new one. So states get lost. If you're an iPhone user, then you're probably familiar with how bottom navigation works in an iOS app, and that if you switch between the bottom nav bar items, that the state on one of the pages of the tabs will remain. And that's exactly what we want to do now. So how can we do that? Well, conveniently, also GoRouter has uh, an option for that. And that's this last example that I'm going to show you. And that's called a stateful shell route. So let's take a look how that looks like. So now we've made a little bit more changes because the shell route has been replaced by a stateful shell route. And we're using the index tag named constructor because this will use an index tag under the hood. So what it basically means is that instead of replacing uh, the current stack, it will be switching between them, meaning that it will keep the other ones in memory. This gives us also a little bit of a different builder function because it will give us a shell instead of a child. And this shell has information like a current index. So it's an index tag based on the amount of branches, because we're not using routes anymore, but branches. Each stateful shell branch has its own index. So in this example, we have 3 branches. So that means that we can have 3 indexes. Well, because our channel is 1, 2, and 3, and indexes start from 0, we're adding +1. And we're still adding the shell as a child. So, like I said, we also now have to use branches instead of routes. And that's because each branch, so all 3 of them, get their own navigator. So instead of, in the previous example where shell route adds a single navigator, for stateful shell branches, it will add a navigation stack for each of them. And that's how it can remain and keep state. And that's what I will show you. So we've changed it. We're gonna restart the app. You'll see that it starts counting. So let's wait till we're at 10. And now we'll go to the next one. But if we now go back to 1, you'll see that it just continued counting. And that's obviously because it remains to keep its state. So what it's doing, it switches between branches, but it's not really replacing pages on a navigation stack. Simply because each channel now has its own navigation stack. So mostly for bottom navigation, this is very nice user experience. It keeps the current position or the current page visible. So yeah, that was all that I wanted to share with you in this video. I hope you liked it. If you do, please leave a like, subscribe, and if you have suggestions for other videos or things that you'd like me to see explain about GoRouter or maybe other subjects about app development, please leave a comment and I will see if I can make a video about that. So thank you for watching and see you next time.